Today we have 3 stories of guys or girls who were popular but then lost their popularity. We're just going to jump right into the first story, but you should leave a like in the video to claim your free nothing. So we're going to call the subscriber Ben for all these stories, as the subscriber is less important as the story being told. So the subscriber tells me about this girl in his class, who we're going to call Jenna. Jenna was the stereotypical popular mean girl. This girl, got popularity pretty quickly because she hit puberty early, and that kind of is a correlation with who's popular, at least when it comes to girls, right? And she completely abused it. Basically, there was a few girls that were like kind of her minions or whatever, but Jenna would relentlessly pick on every other girl. Girl had bad acne, Jenna went for the girl. Girl was a little overweight, Jenna went for the girl. And she was very, very snide with her comments, very, very open with them, and she was very publicly humiliating to people. No one really liked her, but for some reason in high school, it's almost as if the less liked you are, the meaner you are, and the worse off you are, it sometimes turns out that, you were the most liked for some reason. I don't totally know why. Jenna, as the popular girl, also kind of felt as if she could get away with anything. Sometimes when you're a teenager, you just do genuinely believe that you can get away with anything and that you're invincible, which is not true. However, Jenna really did start to believe this. Jenna, for example, would start to vape in class, and which is you shouldn't be doing that in the first place, not good for your lungs. But also just, bro, what are you doing? Especially whipping that thing out in class. I'm like, dude, are you serious right now? And she was definitely doing it because she was the cool, awesome, number one in the social hierarchy girl in high school. So she'd whip out her vape, whatever. She would bring special potato juice, which I'm just trying to word around these things so YouTube doesn't get too big mad at me. But she would take special potato juice, which is also similar to special adult apple juice, and she would bring it to the girls' bathroom, and she and her minions would sit in the stall, take drinks of it, and then come back incapacitated into class. Very clearly what she was doing, right? So this girl was starting to live things on the edge. Yeah, so it got to the point where Jenna, the popular mean girl, was really she believed that she's invincible. So this all happened one day. Jenna decided to do something, which I hope is obvious to everyone, is a terrible thing. So Jenna would drive herself into school every single day. Her parents gave her a car because, well, of course they did. And Jenna was one of the first to get a car. Jenna was one of the first to get one of everything, right? So she always had the popularity because of that. But she was one of the first ones to get a car. And because Jenna was on her arc of I can do literally anything and get away with it, one day, Jenna decided to have some of her adult apple juice before she drove into school. I hope it's clear to everyone that knows about this. Terrible thing to do. It's illegal for really good reasons, but also the safety of other people and yourself. So anyways, Jenna drives into school, but she's under the influence of this adult apple juice. So she crashes into 4 other people driving in. It's a huge scene. A lot of people are dropping off or walking into school when they see it, and thankfully, no one is hurt. Jenna's fine, and the 4 people in the other cars are fine. In a lot of situations like this, these people do not end up being this lucky. But Jenna is super lucky at this point. However, Jenna gets out of the car, and it's fairly clear that she's intoxicated. The police are called. I don't know if they arrest her because she's underage or whatever, but she's definitely in a lot of trouble. And word gets out extremely quickly that Jenna, the popular girl, literally just crashed into 4 cars in the courtyard or the main area because she was under the influence when she was driving into school. Thankfully, all the kids at the school thought that this was terrible. They thought, there's a certain difference between being petty and mean to people and literally putting your fellow classmates' lives at risk. Because in high school, sometimes when you're petty, sometimes when you're mean, sometimes when you're basically a big old bully, you'll actually become popular because of it. But if you put the lives of your fellow classmates at risk, you're not going to be very popular, or at least not for very long. So sure enough, after Jenna's 2-week suspension and being driven into school by her parents that were also not super happy at her for obviously what she did and also totaling the car, she was dropped off, and when she got into school, she kind of expected her flock of minions to immediately come to her and for them to tear down everyone in sight as they did every day. However, the flock of minions, aka her friends, quote-unquote, were no longer there for her. They no longer saw, not only because Jenna did bad things, but because they realized that Jenna was no longer the queen bee. Someone else had taken her place, as people kind of universally came together and decided that she was too terrible. She was not just terrible enough to be popular, she was in fact too terrible to be popular. For the rest of high school, not just a couple days, not just a couple weeks, not just a couple months or the year, for the rest of high school, Jenna was a complete social outcast. No one wanted to associate with her, no one wanted to do anything with her, and for good reason. She almost ended the lives of several students at the school. I hope you guys do understand that is incredibly serious, and you should not do anything like that. Not just because you're going to lose popularity at school, but because it can have extremely serious repercussions. On to the next story. We're just going to call the subscriber the subscriber, but we're going to call the popular kid Bobby. Bobby was just one of those kids who was known as he just liked getting attention. He was the popular funny kid. The thing is, though, with Bobby that's different from Jenna is that people actually liked Bobby. People thought he was funny. People thought he was, likable. He wasn't mean to anyone. All the funny pranks he pulled were either self-deprecating or on the teacher or staff or something like that. They were never at the expense of someone else. So while Bobby was better in this regard, Bobby also was a little bit stupid. And I don't mean that he wasn't doing well in school. I don't necessarily think your intelligence is correlated to your test scores. However, Bobby was a little stupid when it came to boundaries and repercussions and just social awareness when it comes to his pranks and his attention-getting activities. So Bobby he came up to the line. He approached the line, but he had never crossed the line. He'd come up to it, he'd flirted with it, but he'd never, in fact, crossed the line into a point where one of his pranks made him a social outcast. This all changed one day. So Bobby was in class with a subscriber, and they had a big presentation that they all had to do. I don't know what the class was, but let's just say it was like a history presentation, and they needed to show a bunch of slides. So let's say slides of, ancient Roman history or something like that. So they would go up there, they would have a slideshow presentation, they would go through some notes or whatever, they present to the entire class, and it was pretty standard slideshow presentation that everyone has in school, right? So anyways, Bobby, the popular funny kid, or the once popular funny kid after this whole event, decides that this is a great opportunity for him to get a little bit more attention and for him to put a smile on people's faces. But he just takes it way, way, way too far. What do I mean by this? Well, basically, Bobby decides that he's going to have a big funny joke. And what's going to be the big funny joke? Well, he decides that he's going to put a certain image on his slide. So, on the 7th slide in, instead of having an image of, let's say, a Roman emperor or something like that, or maybe a Roman city, he was going to have a photo that he wanted to be funny. So he was thinking about it. He's like, how can I troll these guys? How can I have a little joke that everyone will find funny? He was thinking at first he was going to have a popular meme, this is maybe around when the Spider-Man meme was out, so photo of all the Spider-Man pointing at each other, or something like that. But he's like, no, that's not good enough. I really need this to be memorable. I need people to think back and think, oh yes, I remember that day in 8th grade when Bobby did that really funny thing. He's a really funny guy. And that's when Bobby gets it. He is going to take a photo of his penis and put it on... Yeah, I'm not even kidding. He's going to take a photo of his penis and put it on his slide. He doesn't think for a second that this is a bad idea. Yeah, I'm not even kidding. Real quick, if you made it this far into the video, comment popular down below. That'll be the secret word of the day. Leave a like in the video to claim your free nothing. Subscribe to the channel with post notifications on. Make sure to click that bell icon because we're trying to hit 1 million subscribers. And if you like stories, it's the best way to, be notified of more stories. Spotify, Storytime playlist, and a lot of other good stuff is in the description, so make sure to check it out. And let's get back to it. So yeah, Bobby decides that the best way that he's going to prank everyone, that he's going to totally own everyone and get everyone, and it's going to be the funniest thing ever, is if he goes up into the front of the class with a presentation that has a slide that includes his pee-pee. I'm not even kidding you. Bobby does not see any issue with this. I don't know how he doesn't see any issue with this, because, objectively, bro, people aren't trying to see that. And if one person's trying to see it, maybe it's a girl who likes him a lot, but even then, I bet she doesn't want to see it either. Have you ever seen a pee-pee before? Gentlemen, they're gross looking. They're like weird alien things. Get that off my screen. Get that out of my history class, bro. Hell nah. But anyways, right? So fast forward to history class. It's the day of the presentation. The subscriber goes up and does his presentation, and it's pretty standard or whatever. It's pretty normal. And then eventually, Bobby gets up there. And Bobby, while walking up, has this big old smirk on his face. And the subscriber doesn't totally know why he has this smirk on his face. He thought it was really weird. But then again, he's like, okay, whatever. Bobby's a little weird in the first place. Bobby gets up there. He starts going through his presentation. And once Bobby gets to the 5th slide, he just starts laughing. He just starts laughing uncontrollably. And it was like a slide of like the most unfunny thing ever. It was like in this time, there was exactly this number of people in this Greek city or whatever. It was like a very boring fact or statistic. So everyone was really confused why Bobby was laughing so much. And even the teacher looked a little confused. And then Bobby clicked to the next screen. Man, the people want bleach for their eyes. They sure did, because the next screen was, it was a photo of Bobby's pee-pee with no context. And the whole room goes silent. I think in Bobby's mind, the whole room was going to burst into laughter. Be like, oh my God, Bobby, you're so funny. That photo of your pee-pee on the board, it's so funny. I'm so glad I saw that. Ha ha ha. No, it was dead silence. Everyone was so incredibly shocked. Everyone was so freaked out. At first, a lot of people turned away. A lot of people were like, oh, what? Oh. Like, a lot of people were just not having it. They were not happy. Things were just not great. And there was this really awkward tension in the room. And that's when the teacher turns over to look at the whiteboard and is like, oh my God. And Bobby quickly clicks to the next thing. Bobby right now looks so incredibly embarrassed. Because he just realized, I think he was still under the delusion that people were going to think that this is super funny and that he was going to get like a standing ovation for his epic comedy or whatever. But in fact, that was not the case. So he just tries to like quickly click to the next slide and continues on with the presentation as if nothing happened. But very clearly, he is shaken up because Bobby's tripping over his words. He's gone all red. He's literally shaking, like his hand is shaking that's holding his notes. And he just tries to keep pressing on like nothing happened. However, there's a very distinct buzz in the classroom that begins to get louder and louder of people talking, right? And eventually the teacher's like, whoa, Bobby, stop. Like, did I just see what I thought I just saw? And like everyone in the class started talking louder and louder because everyone's like, oh my God. They're starting to, like for like 20 seconds, there's like a moment of shock where people just were not sure what they saw. But then they all started to realize that they saw what they saw, right? So sure enough, the whole class erupts into whatever, talking and stuff like that. And that's when, Bobby's like, oh, what are you talking about? Teacher's like, go back 1 slide. And Bobby quickly goes back 2 slides. But even though he quickly goes back 2 slides, for a split second, his pee-pee's on screen. And everyone's like, oh, no. And the teacher's like, Bobby, get over here right now. And Bobby walks over. He's like, go up to the front office and tell them what you did. So yeah, after that point, before this point, Bobby was known as a funny kid who would pull pranks, keep everyone entertained, and overall was a good guy. After this point, Bobby was known as a weirdo who showed his pee-pee to the entire class. And Bobby tried to redeem himself by doing more pranks in the future, but before, when he'd do pranks, everyone would laugh, they'd be on his side. But now when he did pranks, it was awkward and people were pretty cold to him. At the end of the day, moral of the story is, don't show your pee-pee to the entire class. Guys, do I really need to tell you the moral of that story? Third story, we're going to call the popular girl Clara. So anyways, the subscriber is telling me about this girl, who we're going to call Clara. Clara was very similar to the first girl. She was your stereotypical, standard, mean girl that was just really stuck up and rude. She wasn't as blatantly cruel as the first girl, Jenna. However, she was still very snobby, rude, just not really a good overall person. And everyone kind of knew her as that. But she was also very clearly one of the top popular people, which popularity in high school is just a weird subject matter in the first place. It's very arbitrary, and just in case you guys are worried because you may not be popular in high school, it doesn't matter. Trust me on this. It genuinely doesn't matter. In fact, if you're super popular in high school, be careful. This is my warning to you. Because you don't want to peak in high school, bro. You don't want things that only get better. You don't want this to be the peak of your life. But anyways, enough of getting sidetracked. Clara, popular girl. People didn't really, they liked her, but she also was kind of rude and very entitled. She used to be a really nice girl a while ago, but then the popularity kind of slowly but surely seeped into her personality. She became very stuck up. She used to be super open and was friends with everyone, but slowly but surely, as she became cemented as one of the popular girls, she was not friends or affiliated with anyone who wasn't officially deemed as popular. This all changed one Friday night. So these people were in high school, and there was a high school party. And this was one of the high school parties that the parents didn't know about. So there was plenty of adult drinks present at this party. And Clara had one too many. And the thing is, especially when your first encounters with adult drinks, you either have almost nothing or you go way, way too far, since you don't know your limits yet. And Clara either knew her limits and decided to ignore them, or she didn't know her limits and she soon learned her limits. So the subscriber was there at this party, and Clara was acting completely crazy, right? She was super drunk, to put it bluntly. She was talking to everyone. She was loud, obnoxious. She was definitely a lot more outgoing than she normally was. She also was a lot more friendly. She was definitely a friendly drunk, because she was friendly to all these, there were some people there that she deemed as unpopular, so she kind of cut them off. But because of that, she actually, at the party, she was going up to them, being like, it's been so long since we talked, all this kind of stuff, right? Which they kind of looked at her weirdly, because they're like, you cut me off. They didn't say this, but they're like, you cut me off and stopped talking to me because I wasn't quote-unquote popular enough. And now you're coming up to me and basically saying, it's been so long, what happened? You happened, bro. What are you talking about? I've been the same the entire time. But anyways, right? Things get really interesting because, Clara, she continues to just have more of the adult drinks. She gets more and more intoxicated until she gets to the point where some people call it blackout intoxicated. Basically, you don't remember any of it, you act the most crazy, and you have the least recollection of the events that happened before. It got so bad that Clara didn't have any... Oh, God, this is a nasty alert, by the way. It got so bad that Clara didn't have much more control of her bowel movements. Yeah, she did number 2 in the middle of the party. She was just standing around someone's kitchen floor the kitchen floor, whatever, standing around with a couple people, and then all of a sudden she literally just pulls down her pants. She just does number 2 on the floor. Everyone obviously freaks out. She doesn't even realize what's going on at this point because no lights are on, nobody's home. She just does number 2 all over the floor. And people come in really quickly. The homeowner's like, "Duh, what?" She's kicked out, but one of her friends is told, please take her home. She can't be here anymore for her own sake, not even just my sake, right? So she's taken home. The cleanup crew's there, but very quickly, everyone at the party knows about what happened. It is the craziest story, and it catches like wildfire. And sure enough, by the time Monday goes around, basically everyone in the school knows about this. Almost immediately, this invisible kind of aura of being popular is taken away. And it's because she's known as the girl who crapped herself at the party in front of everybody. And this is when Clara, tried, it's very funny, because after this all happened, all the other quote-unquote popular girls that Clara used to hang out with, they no longer wanted to associate with her. She would sit down with them at lunch, and they would, be very quick with her. They wouldn't respond, and then within 5 minutes, they'd all be done with their lunch, even though they just started it, right? And, Clara started to realize that These friends really only hung out with her because she was quote-unquote popular, and now the only reason they're not hanging out with her is because of the opposite. So then Clara goes to her other friends, the ones that she ditched because she got popular and didn't think that they were popular. And believe it or not, these friends were not so welcoming back either. Which, I mean, you might be thinking, well, if they really don't care about popularity, they might as well forgive their friends. And I'm definitely a very, very forgiving people. My issues, I give people way too many chances. So I've been like, oh, Clara, you can come back. It's fine. You made a mistake. But these friends were not having it because they also treated her like the popular kids now. Because, bro, she ditched them. And she ditched them for something so shallow. So is it really the worst that they would ditch her for something so shallow? Yeah, life's unfortunate sometimes. And Clara she started to regain a little bit of popularity by the end of high school. But by the time you're finishing up high school, you start to really get in perspective how little all that popularity stuff means in the first place.
Click on the video on screen right now. I know you'll enjoy it. Just click it, do it.